If you hang around me long enough, you may hear me celebrate things that seem small or insignificant to most people. Whether I'm celebrating your wins or I'm celebrating my own, I'm here to say there's no win that is too small. The topic for this episode is how to celebrate your wins well and often, and how this is going to keep you motivated to move forward and you'll see results in your goals and your dreams. Welcome to the Homesteading for Beginners podcast. This is Mona Weathers, your host, and I am here to help you start and maintain a healthy homestead that aligns with your goals for self-sufficiency in a way that is sustainable and profitable. If you've ever felt like you're just not making progress with your goals, it may be that you are, but you think the progress is too small to celebrate. If you're someone that feels like your dreams are just not coming fast enough, then I want you to listen or watch this episode because I'm going to give you some life-transforming truths, and hopefully it will give you a new perspective on winning and progress. If you've ever felt discouraged and lost at some point in your life, welcome to human nature. Everyone feels that way at some point, right? You're dreaming about your homesteading journey, but things are just not happening for you fast enough. Or you are homesteading and the progress you're making is just not the way you hope it would be, and you don't even know if you're really making that significant of progress. Well, I want to show you how I operate and how I have operated over the last 20 years, and seen my goals become reality because I chose to celebrate the small wins along the way. Let me start by telling you a story about my first garden in California. We lived in the California mountains in a little town called Tehachapi. It's very dry weather there, beautiful oak trees, mountains and valleys, and we lived in a valley. And we had no trees on our property when we first moved there. We had not one. We planted every single tree that is there. There are trees there now, and I'm hoping for the people who live there now that they're thankful that we planted those trees. But had nothing there. There was just 2.25 acres of flat. Oh, there was barley. Barley had grown in that area for years, I think. And so we had these tall 5 to 6 foot barley that in the beginning my husband would um, mow little paths in there, and the kids loved to play with it. But that anyway, that's a side story. Other than the barley, we had nothing growing. We did it all. We started all for about 4 years of my homesteading journey. That's why my homesteading journey and my gardening journey do not match up, because it took me about 4 years before I actually started my first garden. Every year I would say, I've got to start a garden. I want to start a garden. And I was always just frustrated because, first of all, it's dry. We had no fencing because if we didn't have fencing, everything would just eat our stuff. Um, and I just remember feeling like, this is just not happening for me. And then one day I'm like, forget this. I'm making a garden. I don't care if there's not enough, if there's no fencing. I don't care what it is, what is lacking in this situation. I'm just going to go forward. So there was leftover rebar from the previous owner of this property on the property, like a stack of it, like a huge stack of it was rusted old rebar. And I was like, okay, that's the only thing I have. That was like the only scraps we had on the property. And I staked my ground basically, and I made I think it was probably like a 10 by 11 or 10 by 12 section where I wanted the garden to go. And I just laid them flat. I laid the rebar flat and I said, this is where my garden is going to be. Well, that tiny little mindset shift, this is where I really started understanding that the actions that we take actually really affect the future of our goals, right? We have to take some kind of action, and that was the day I decided to take action, and that is where my garden started. That was the first garden I had, and it was a small garden. We ended up fencing that area, and it ended up being like a 20 by 30 or something like that. But I first started with that very small area, and I just started planting stuff. I can't remember exactly what I did after that, if I just started planting stuff or if my husband was like, this is ridiculous, let's make a fence. I can't remember exactly. But I do know that that was the beginning of our gardening journey, that mindset shift day. I tell you this story because I want you to understand that that was a win I needed to celebrate, okay? And if you have a similar story, that is a win that you need to celebrate, because I made a big decision in my life that changed my life forever. I'm now still gardening. I still love it. Every year is such a fun time of learning new things. I'm not a master gardener. I've said that before. I'm still learning, but I'm just so glad I didn't stop myself because I didn't have the perfect setup. The progress I made was because I first made a decision to go forward. And from there on, I made other small little moves towards what I wanted for a garden until our garden was kind of large. I mean, that was the first area, and then we made another area, and then I had a third area that I only did that for like a year or two, and I realized I'm just going too crazy here with my gardening. So I scaled back again and had the two main gardens. And yeah, it's just a great memory for me. It's a great thing for me to look back on and say, hey, you know what? I did the thing. I moved forward. So you have to think about where you are now and where you want to be in the future. I wanted to have a garden for my future. And at that point, I had nothing. And every year for 4 years that we lived on that property, I was saying, I want to add a garden. I would say I should have done it the first year, but things don't always turn out the way you want them to. But the fact that I made that choice and moved forward when I did was important. So you have to think about where you are now and where you want to be in the future. So setting yourself up with this win mentality is a way for you to take action sooner, because you'll see results sooner if you take this celebrate your win mentality, right? And for some people, it's really difficult to do, and you tend to be more negative. But when you're in a state of negativity, it's really hard to see any celebrations, to see any wins, right? So you have to have this mentality. You can't just say, I'll try it out either, because if you say, well, I'll try this thing of being positive and celebrating my wins and see what happens. If you have that sort of mentality about win celebrations and winning, you'll likely fall away because something else will happen and you'll be like, okay, see, proved it. This is not working. So instead, you need to decide you're going to have this win mentality. And like I did with my garden, I decided I was going to have a garden at that point. So in this same way, you can decide that you're going to be more positive and have a celebration win mentality. An example would be trying versus doing. It'd be like, I'm going to try this new food out. I'm going to try this new thing that I've never tried and see if I like it. Or versus something like, I'm just going to stake this into the ground and say, this is my future from here on out. So try to have that kind of outlook when you're thinking about this win mentality. So if you want to feel more positive about your life and your current situation, then it's best to just put that stake in the ground and say, this is the way it's going to be from now on. That doesn't mean you will never have bad days, and that doesn't mean that you won't revert back into some of the thoughts that you had before. But what it does do is it exercises a muscle, the positivity muscle, or whatever you want to call it. It exercises that. And until one day you're looking for all of the wins, you're looking for all of the ways to celebrate your current situation. If you are the type of person that tends to be negative, try to, work that muscle and find things that are something that you can celebrate each and every day. And this is not to say that if you have something terribly happening in your life right now that is not, to not feel those feelings and to just pretend like life is wonderful. It's nothing like that. What I tend to tell people is feel the feelings. Don't ignore them. They're there for a reason. And then move on from that and try to progress and be a better person, a better version of yourself on the other end of it, right? So why does it matter that we have this win mentality in our homesteading journey? You're probably like, well, what does this have to do with homesteading? Well, homesteading is way more than raising chickens, gardening, and making sourdough bread. It has so much more to do with how you want your life to be. Homesteading is a choice. Most of the people on earth can choose this lifestyle currently. In the past it wasn't, but in current, modern world, modern homesteading is a choice, is a lifestyle choice. And we don't want to have a lifestyle that is causing us stress, crazy amount of stress. We don't want to feel like exhausted nonstop. We don't want to feel sad about our decisions or not confident in our decisions. We want all those things to be part of our journey. So in order for that to happen, we have to grow as people. We have to learn some character traits that we may have never been shown as we grew up, from childhood or whatever. Our parents may have never shared these things, but it doesn't mean that you can't learn them as an adult. So this is the kind of thing that will cause your relationships to be better, your relationships with people around you, your relationships and your understanding of how the world works and the things that matter. And so while the skills of raising animals, raising your own livestock, gardening, and sourdough bread making, and all those things are so important, equally, or even sometimes more so important, is how we're setting up our mental health in this situation. We don't want to leave a rat race situation and then replace it with a different type of rat race, which might include real rats. So that is my message, and that is why I want you to consider making this a really important part of your journey as you continue your homesteading journey. So I'm going to share a few of my own wins as examples of what I see. I shared my gardening story and how I staked my land and created my garden. I'm going to share some recent wins that I have that I keep track of. I keep track of them on lists. I keep track of them mentally, and I tell myself this is progress. This is what progress looks like. So one of them is this podcast. Okay, so I started this podcast almost 2 years ago, and it was August, I think, of 2022, and it's grown really well. If you search in Apple Podcasts for homesteading, at least at the time of this recording, it was this way. If you search for homesteading in Apple Podcasts, my podcast shows first, which took a while for me to get there, by the way. It's not because the title of my podcast starts with homesteading. It is because I strategically used keywords over and over again to get there, and the growth of the podcast has been great as well and helps. I don't know exactly what combination got me there, but I know the things that I was doing. So anyway, that's a big deal for me, because so when people look in Apple Podcasts and they search for homesteading, it shows up first. So this podcast shows up first. It is also in the top 2.5% of all podcasts globally, which sounds like a really big deal, and it is, but it's not as hard as you may think to get to that point. But this podcast, Homesteading for Beginners, is in the top of podcast top 2.5%. So that's a big deal for me. So that is a win I have been celebrating recently a lot. I started a YouTube channel, which if you're watching this on YouTube, this is, not a common way I have been doing my episodes. Most of my episodes on YouTube are 100% audio. So this is a new thing that I progressed. I got the right equipment. I upgraded to a new computer, which is another win. Just this week, I got a new computer, so this process should be faster and easier. I've been struggling with my computer for a long time, so I'm just really glad I got that. But yeah, the YouTube channel, and we have over 600 subscribers now, which is not huge, and like some channels, but each and every subscriber, which by the way, if you are not subscribing, please do so now. Each and every subscriber, I celebrate. I celebrate each and every one because a lot of times I only get one at a time. But this is over a couple of years process, you know. So I'm just happy that you're here listening and you enjoy it, I guess, because you have subscribed. But it's just that's another win for me. And then the Homestead Income Plan group has been growing. It is over 700 members now, and there are active members in there, which is I'm thrilled about. It's a labor of love, that group, and it's free if you have not joined. It is free. It is where we talk about building a homestead income. I have other people, as including myself, teaching in that, and we celebrate a lot in there. I celebrate every 100 people that join. I celebrate every week. We celebrate, actually. We have one of the things that I do in there. I have automated posts that go out on Monday and Friday. Monday is what is your focus Monday? What are you going to focus on this week? And then Friday is celebrate your wins. So whatever recently in the week you had happen that was good, we celebrate those things. I'm your biggest cheerleader, so just know that when you win and you have something that's really important to you and you are excited about it, I'm excited about it, okay? So, that's another big win for me. I'm mentioning big wins, but all of these things have taken small little wins to get there. I mentioned the computer. That's a big thing for me, that I finally got my new computer. And my husband and I also recently took a vacation, which we have not in many years. And it's really sad to say that, but it's true. Separate from anyone else, like just us two. So we've been places. We haven't been together somewhere alone in a while. I planned it in January. I reserved the Airbnb, which is this beautiful place in Tennessee. We were visiting some friends. It was like a birthday weekend type, friend visit type vacation thing, but it was just such a fun time. And that was a big win for me because we have not done that in a long time. And it was really good for us to get away. So that's another celebration. Another celebration I have is my garden. I have been we've been here in this place for 5 years, 6 years, I think, in this house, no, it hasn't been that long. I think this is the 5th year, possibly. Anyway, each year I wanted my garden, right? And first year was we'd had no idea where to put it because we didn't know where we wanted things. We put it in on the side of a retaining wall, which worked out okay. I was able to grow some things. Then we put it in the location that I really wanted my garden, but I wasn't able to. That year we had a lot going on. Can't remember. Busy husband, everything. It was probably a pandemic year because he was really busy working. He happened to be one of the people that did get to work during the pandemic, but because people want their coffee. Husband is the manager of a coffee warehouse. And because people want their coffee, it was extremely busy. So anyway, nothing really got done there. I think that was the year I ended up doing straw bale gardening. I got to experiment a lot. Let me tell you, these last couple of years, because I didn't have the setup that I wanted, because we had to, like you can't just dig in the ground here in Georgia. It's like full on hard clay. It's not going to do anything if you plant on it directly. So you have to amend it or add to it on the top or something like that. This year was the first year we actually built one so far, real garden bed, and I have tomatoes growing in there. And just some of the other things, that the design that I want is coming together. It's slowly coming together, and I just feel like really good about it. So that's a win that I'm celebrating. So your celebrations may be different than mine, but as you can see, I definitely recognize these things as wins. And I want you to shift your mind and to see your wins as often as possible and to celebrate those things. Not only is it good for you to celebrate, but it also helps other people to realize how much it matters to you. You know, if you don't speak it out, then nobody else is going to know that it's something that should be celebrated, right? So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and tell you how you can make this change or improve on your celebrations. So I'm going to give you a list of how to celebrate. This is some ways that you can celebrate with people. So number one is tell someone who gets it. That's the key there. Tell someone who gets it about your celebration. If it's a person that's just not going to get it, you can tell them because it's important. But if you really want somebody to celebrate with you, you want to find your cheerleaders. And there may be the people that just are cheerleaders all the time, and they're just really excited about everything, like a person like me. Like if it makes you happy, it makes me happy. You know, like as long as it's not hurting yourself and other people, it makes me happy. You celebrate those things. Tell the people that will get it that about what you want to celebrate, you know? And Homestead Income Plan Group, if you're in that area of, you know, if you're trying to build an income or whatever, that is a great place to be because we celebrate. We celebrate in there, like as I mentioned before. So number two is reward yourself with healthy things. Okay, so like that might be a walk, a treat of some sort. It could be a non-healthy treat, but just by by healthy, I mean not things that are going to, you know, damage your body. Okay, so other things that would damage your body. You know, just celebrate with something like, you know, you could ice cream or whatever it is you want. I mean, it's up to you. But I mean more harsh things when I'm thinking things that damage your body. I don't really want to say it. I don't know if like YouTube is kind of weird and they have things that you can't say. And I've noticed other people doing that. So I don't want to use any words that might bring that up for YouTube to be, I don't know. Anyway, it could be that you want to celebrate a break, you know, of some sort. You know, celebrate with a break of some sort, like just like you working this hard to take an hour long break to watch your favorite show or something like that, you know, like reward yourself. Recognize that you are doing a good job, okay? And number three would be to keep a list of these things. Keep a record of all of the things that you are celebrating and that you've done and you have accomplished. I think it's so easy for us to get to the next thing and then totally forget about the thing that we worked so hard to get to. Okay? And by having a list, especially a list that's shown somewhere, that's visible somewhere, the list will remind you, oh yeah, I did that thing. I did that thing. I think we have a really hard time remembering things that are good, and we always seem to point out the things that are bad, like we remember or hyper focus on the bad and not on the good. A perfect example of this, and I do it too, is when someone comments a bad comment on a post or something that I put on social media out there, and it's like I had like 5 good comments and then a bad one. And then I'm like, I almost forget the 5 good ones and just hyper focus on the bad ones. And it's not very healthy, you know. I'm not saying that it's a good thing, and I'm actually saying it's not a good thing. But that's why we have to work that muscle, that positivity muscle, and actually say to ourselves, okay, just quit that. I'm not going to concentrate on that. I'm going to concentrate on the 5 good things that people said about me or whatever it is. By keeping a list, it will help you to focus on the good things and your wins. And then number 4 is verbally tell yourself you did a good job, like out loud. Like out loud say to yourself using your name, good job. You did a good job. I do this. I've been doing this for many years, and I realized how important it was because as we get through these like major cycle these unhealthy thinking patterns, when we're in these unhealthy thinking patterns, we tend to just keep with the pattern. It's like a, you know, what do you call those? Hamster wheel. You know, we just go, oh yeah, okay. And we get to the end of the wheel and then we keep going. And it just keeps going, okay? And sometimes it can go way out of hand. So instead, use your name stop yourself from that cycle. So you would say, like for me, it would be like, Mona, come on, this is what the truth is, or you did a really good job, or whatever it is. And I've done this over the past years because it always stops me in my tracks and go, yeah, you know what? I need to I need to listen to myself. I'm doing a good job. You know yourself better than anyone else. So if your small win is a really to someone else it might seem really small, but to you it's like, this is amazing. I did this. I can't believe it. It was so hard. It was so scary, but I did it anyway. Celebrate that. Stop. Tell yourself you did a good job. You did a good job, okay? So I can't tell you how effective that last one is. I highly recommend you do that. But all four of those things are really important and really useful. So I am one of those people, and I've said this before, that I am one of those people that loves to celebrate your wins. So one way I can do that, if you're a beginner homesteader, is to offer you the Beginner Homesteader Starter Kit. It is something that is on sale this month, the month of June, and the sale will be off. It's 35% off right now. It'll be over at the end of this month on June 30th. But the starter kit is a place for us to connect. It is a place for you to walk through the things that matter during your homesteading journey. The things that matter, I talk a lot about mindset and things like that, so that you can decide how you want to design your life. This homesteading lifestyle is a lifestyle, okay? So how do you want to design your lifestyle? And I'm there to answer your questions and respond to anything that you have within the course. It's like a course workbook coaching type thing. So if you have questions about homesteading, you can ask me anything. And the way I answer those questions is by you going through the course and as you go through the course, answer some of the questions I have in there. And then I will respond to those. I respond to those directly within within 48 hours generally. I'll respond to those questions. So if you're ready for that, if you're ready to take the next step in your homesteading journey, then get the Beginner Homesteader Starter Kit at the discounted price. I will have the link in the show notes. If you are not ready for a starter kit, highly recommend you get the checklist, which is just a small, simple little thing that'll get you started. It'll get you started on this journey of, what to start with first and that sort of thing. So I highly recommend you get the checklist. You can find that at healthyhomesteading.com. And then if you are ready to, take the next step in your homestead income journey, then you should join the Homestead Income Plan group. I would love to see you there and join in the celebration, and you can see how I celebrate people. And yeah, that is all I have for today, I guess. I hope you are celebrating. I hope you're recognizing something today that you can celebrate and that will keep you moving forward so that one day you'll have years of gardening experience like I have like I have, because I decided to stake that garden in the ground and then celebrate the wins along the way until I am, 16, 17 years of gardening, 20 years of homesteading, 21 years of homesteading, something like that. I don't know. I keep forgetting every year that there's a new year. I kind of forget where I am. I don't know. Does that happen to anybody else? Anyway, so I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or your morning or wherever you are. And I hope you have a great celebration of some sort today. And think of me. And don't forget to talk to yourself and tell yourself that you did good.